Salut tous! Fast Forward prend de plus en plus le temps de s'arrêter sur des sujets plus denses. Un nouveau retour, un nouvel album nous ont permis de rencontrer la bande à Robert avant le concert flamboyant qu'ils nous ont offert à l'ancienne Belgique. Concert que vous pourrez découvrir en exclu et en intégralité le 10 mars à 22h50. Voici une bonne cure de Cure.
The Cure. Depuis plus de 22 ans, sa seule évocation provoque de mystérieux rassemblements de corbeaux, des hirondelles borgnes et déchus, connaissant par cœur la grammaire du spleen selon le grand Robert. Né du dégel de la Cold Wave, enfant naturel de Winnie l'ourson et de Todd Browning, The Cure a traversé 3 décennies en inventant, imposant puis incarnant un style, souvent décrié, jamais, malheureusement pour lui, imité. 23 millions d'albums après Killing an Arab, Robert Smith, 40 ans malgré lui, continue de mener sa croisade sombre avec un nouvel album, Bloodflowers, déjà annoncé comme l'un des meilleurs du groupe. L'un des plus gros menteurs du rock accepte de jouer au jeu de la vérité, du moins la sienne.
We all know that you're probably one of the biggest liars in the music business. So are you able today to tell us the truth and nothing but the truth? So why did it take you such a long time to complete the new recording? At some point, have you ever been attracted by a post-millennium release? You know, just to write the name The Cure in the next
No,
century.
in fact, quite the opposite. I really was looking forward to kind of finishing this decade rather than the millennium. I don't think the millennium has much to do with The Cure, but certainly as a decade, I thought it would be nice to round it off with Bloodflowers and start the year 2000 with something new. But it's, you know, it's one of those things that they believe that we wouldn't get enough media exposure and rack space and all the other commercial considerations that go into releasing an album. And much to my amusement, I suppose, concerned amusement, most of the record companies have felt that about their major artists, in inverted commas. And it looks like there'll be about probably 15 people releasing their album the same day as us in February. So, in fact, it's kind of worked to our mutual disadvantage, but
Bloodflowers semble clôturer aujourd'hui une trilogie annoncée en 82 avec Pornography et poursuivie en 89 avec Disintegration, 2 albums majeurs dans la discographie et l'histoire de Cure. Après quelques disques médiocres, le meilleur semble donc encore à venir.
Well, I certainly intended for it to be the third in an imaginary trilogy. I've played Pornography, and obviously there are certain members of the band who've been on. Well, Simon was on Pornography, and Simon and Roger both played in Disintegration. And I was trying to get the band as a whole when we listened back to those 2 albums before we started Bloodflowers to understand that when I did, there are certain records that we've made that I know exactly what I want before we go in the studio. I even down to like the sound of the snare drum, everything. I kind of have it in my head, and that's 10 years since the last time I did that, which was with Disintegration. And with Bloodflowers, I knew exactly what I wanted it to sound like before we went in the studio. Whereas with Wish and Wild Mood Swings, the songs developed, and I wasn't really bothered how they turned out as long as I liked them. So this is. Both with Pornography and Disintegration, this one, it's more like I'm a conductor rather than just like a member of the group.
marquer la sortie de Bloodflowers, The Cure, désormais habitué des concerts Barnum, a voulu renouer avec les petites salles de ses débuts pour une tournée européenne des clubs qui sera bientôt suivie en mars du Dream Tour, une tournée des salles, cette fois à la démesure de leur vraie envergure.
Turn the acoustic up a little bit. And turn it up behind it. Show me how you do that trick. The one who makes me scream, she said.
Victime du punk, Robert a mis du temps avant d'accepter qu'il était aussi un auteur de pop-song catchy et immédiate qui lui ont sans doute apporté ses plus grandes joies commerciales. Un aspect complètement écarté sur Bloodflowers, un album de chansons plombées et cotonneuses de bout en bout.
People think of The Cure as a goth band or like as a doom and gloom band, and in fact they don't. The general public think of The Cure as a pop band because the only time they ever hear us is when we're doing pop songs. So our commercial success is built almost exclusively on songs like Friday I'm in Love and Love Cats and stuff like that through the years, the way that we've got radio play, and that's drawn people in. The strange thing is that people who have been attracted to the group on that kind of pop level have often then kind of got more involved with what we do on the album, and actually they've turned into like really big Cure fans and realised that in fact they prefer the album stuff, if you like, the darker stuff to the pop stuff. But I personally have never had a problem with doing both. If I was being very honest, obviously I prefer stuff like Out of This World and Last Day of Summer and Bloodflowers, the songs that have got much more meaning for me. But I realised that had we just done that type of, made that kind of music, we wouldn't be a popular band. We would appeal to a very small number of people. The problem that I've had is trying to get people to see that that you can do both. It's like in the early days, before football became very fashionable and hip. I was a football fan. I played football when I was at school, and I've watched football throughout my life. In the 80s, say, even when we were making pornography, I was going to watch football matches, and people couldn't understand then that was a dichotomy. It's a paradox. You can't like football and sing 100 years.
La pochette de Bloodflowers est un nouvel aveu. The Cure n'est rien d'autre que Robert et son orchestre. Même si la formation a trouvé un équilibre stable depuis 5 ans, seul Robert Smith est en contrat avec Fiction, sa maison de disques, tous les autres, y compris Simon Gallup, son beau-frère par alliance, n'étant que des employés salariés par le patron.
It's always been that I determine who's in the band. So, but the thing is, it's like we have, you know, there's equal songwriting credits, and everything's pretty much divided equally. When you're in the band, you're in the band. There's no sense of like you're a second-rate citizen. But obviously there's a kind of pecking order. There might be a 4-to-1 vote, and I'm the one, and I'll still get my way because that's how things are. But on matters that are unrelated to the band, we're equals. There's no sense that I'm their boss, that they're my employees. That really wouldn't work, because the group has always had at its heart the sense that we should be friends with each other, and that the music that we're playing together is like kind of like a way that we can share that friendship and enjoy things, you know. But the others are pragmatic, you know. They realise that I'm the face that people know, and that I'm the voice that people recognise, and so to constantly fight against that is a bit of a waste of energy. I think whatever happens in the future is most unlikely that if there were to be another Cure album, that it would be with the same group, it would be the same lineup. So essentially, whenever in the past when I've said that, although you said it kind of jokingly at the beginning, with the Wish album, say that we all knew that band was going to thought that lineup was going to change and that Boris and Paul were going to leave. So with every lineup of The Cure, they believe that they are the definitive lineup of The Cure. I mean, I've been in them all, so I've experienced them all believing that they're all the definitive lineup. So it's almost like this lineup wants to prove to all the other ones that this is the best, you know, that this group can make the best Cure album.
Sur le nouvel album, Robert Smith renoue encore une fois avec des obsessions déjà développées sur Pornography ou Disintegration. Le temps qui passe, la peur de grandir, puisqu'il a définitivement renoncé à vieillir.
In some ways, I mean, that the fear of growing old is really like it's just a fear of disappointment. It's not actually a fear of physically growing old. I had a fear that things would never be as good as I thought I could make them. And having reached 40, I've actually achieved much more than I ever thought I would. So I'm in a much better frame of mind than I thought I'd be. I thought I'd reach 40 and I'd be completely and utterly, you know, if I ever reached 40, I thought I'd be so depressed that I would never, you know, I'd be in a cave somewhere. Whereas in fact, I've spent the last 20 years pretty much on the whole enjoying myself. And most of the things that I've tried to do seem to have worked, so. When I wrote it, the song itself is about a lack of passion and a lack of fire and a lack of drive. And on that particular day, as often happens, I think, as you get older on your birthday, there is a sense of, it's probably the one day of the year when there is a kind of a sense of, like, you look back and if I ever feel disappointment, it's usually on my birthday. And I kind of think I haven't done as much as I wished I'd done since my last birthday. It's like one of those milestone moments and you think, well, I should have done this, I should have done this. So rather than just sit there and weep about it, I thought, I should write a song about how how I feel at this moment.
Contrairement à ses contemporains, Depeche Mode, Joy Division ou encore les Bunnymen, The Cure est rarement cité comme une influence majeure par de jeunes groupes. Malgré un chemin unique balisé d'empreintes inimitables, The Cure semble avoir gardé le maquis. Un groupe qui n'aurait sans doute pas connu le même succès avec une autre coiffure et un autre maquillage, un style graphique et une image qui, contrairement à la musique, a été largement copié-collé.
I'm not in the slightest bit shy, but I'm not really an attention seeker, which sounds ridiculous considering what I do. But the part of me that wants the attention, I express through, I put on the makeup and I make the most of it. And I really enjoy doing it. But I differentiate very clearly in my own mind where that stops. And like when I get off stage, when I get away from this, and when I stop, when I'm not the singer in The Cure, which happens more and more, having a home life that's kind of based around a different community and a different set of people, being the singer in The Cure isn't really that important. And that's probably what 39 was about, that it's less important to me now than it used to be. It used to be everything. The Cure was like my entire life, and as I'm growing older, it becomes less and less important. I mean, I wear less and less makeup and worry less and less about what I look like in my real life outside of The Cure. Whereas I used to I used to sort of dress up all the time. I think the desire to be noticed, I suppose, disappears the more you are noticed, in a strange way. I mean, when you're kind of, when it starts out and you're at school and you're just one of a crowd, and I used to do things not really to be noticed by my peers, but to actually mark myself out as being against the teachers, against the establishment, against authority. And that's just like a character trait that you've either got or you haven't. And I suppose through the years I've had to express it less and less, but the makeup and the look has become identifiable with The Cure. It also served a purpose that allows me to perform in a way that I wouldn't otherwise perform. I've often toyed with the idea of getting on stage without makeup, and it fills me with dread, because I would just stand there. I just couldn't do it. It would be horrible. It surprised me how I've accepted the lack of, I suppose, of critical acclaim, certainly, that's accorded the group. In all the build-up to Millennium, we haven't been mentioned in England at all about anything with regards to like modern contemporary culture or pop music or anything, apart from suddenly out of the blue, Channel 4 in the UK are running this best 100 songs of the millennium or something. And A Forest is in there at number 15, and it was such a shock. Actually, like, I thought that someone was taking the piss. It's like they're making this up. I've grown so accustomed to us not being there. That in the UK, people would have you believe that the Smiths, were a massive global success, and The Cure mean nothing. Whereas the facts are that it's completely the other way around. But history is always written by the victors, and the victors in this instance are people who are Smiths fans who go on to, and then they're failed musicians who end up as journalists. And so they write The Cure out of history because they don't like us. It's a handful of people who determine the cultural events of the last sort of 10 to 50 years. I don't think it has anything to do with sales, which is, who cares, really?
I've got to go after Mecca Streisand. Chef, I need you to call Robert Smith of The Cure at this number.
Robert Smith? Sweet.
Hello?
Yes. Is this Robert Smith of The Cure?
Yes, it is.
We went to America a couple of years ago, and they were doing the first few episodes of South Park, and sent me a copy of the video and just said, would you appear in this? And I thought it was extremely funny, and said yes. And a few months later, we went back, and I just did it one morning. I got up and went to a studio and just did the voiceover. I had no idea what they were doing. I didn't actually do it to the picture. I just read a script.
Am I too late?
Who are you?
Dude, Robert Smith of The Cure. Whee!
Here, you boys, hold this walkie. You can help me fight her.
You can try, Robert Smith.
I have to try. I can't let Barbara Streisand do this to the entire world.
Robert Smith, Robert Smith, Robert Smith.
I just like what they do. I think they have a really excellent sense of humour. I And I think Orgasmo is actually like, it was one of those films, I suppose, that will be appreciated on tour buses through the years. It's not really a film that you'd take home and watch, I suppose. I think you need to have drunk a certain or smoked a certain amount to find it particularly funny. And to have watched a certain number of porn films to actually find it that funny.
All right, I'll Rochambeau you for it. Ready?
Hey, where's he going?
Goodbye, Robert Smith. Thank you for your help. Visit us again. Disintegration is the best album ever!
It's opening time. Down on Fascination Street. Let's cut the conversation and get out for a thing. 'Cause I feel it all fading. I'm failing and I'm begging to try down with to cut the last nail in. I like you tonight. I like you to scream, but if you open your mouth, I can't be responsible for quite what goes in, but to cry what comes out. To just pull on your head, just pull on your hat, and let's move to the beat like you know that it's over. You sit going on the sit over my shoulder, so just pull on your bed, just pull on your feet, and let's hit opening time.
Si Robert Smith avait un seul regret sur la façon dont il a mené sa petite entreprise depuis 20 ans, ce serait sans doute le choix crucial du nom de guerre de son groupe de Cure, qu'il n'hésite pas à rebaptiser de Curse, la malédiction.
I have, at times, wished that I'd call the band something else. But I suspect that whatever I'd called it, I'd, from time to time, hate it. I think I'd probably just hate what it represents, like the millstone around my neck. I'm not really sure it's the name. The name's all right. It's kind of, I suppose, initially I just wanted something that was very optimistic, which is why it was, I suppose, it went from the Easy Cure to the Cure, and I thought it was a very positive name. And at the time, very few bands had positive names. Everyone was kind of like, you know, it was kind of just after punk, and everyone was really either very angry or very down. I just like the idea of being different. I suppose as things have turned out, it's not a very apt name for what we've done. I hope that's my only regret.
All that I have, all that I hold, all that is wrong. All that I feel for trusting alone, all that is gone. It used to be so easy. I never even tried. Yeah, it used to be so easy. The last day of summer never felt so cold, so cold. The last day of summer never felt so old, so old. The last day of summer never felt so cold, so cold,
Comme les compagnons de la chanson, Robert Smith annonce depuis 10 ans et à chaque nouvel album qu'il s'agit bel et bien du dernier et que la prochaine tournée sera sans aucun doute une tournée d'adieu.
As with every Cure album since Disintegration, we are in the studio and I'm telling the others this is the last Cure album. But I do that to get a kind of, you know, an emotional piquancy to the proceedings. If I said, oh, let's get this one out of the way, then we can do another one, that would be pretty insane. That would be more insane than me saying it's the last one every time. To me, that's quite natural. Would you like me to tell you that it's the last time I'm ever doing it? I'm quite happy to if you want. I don't think it is the last Cure album. No. That's the honest truth. I will never say never again.
Stop! Pour le concert intégral, c'est le 10 mars à 22h50, sinon rendez-vous dans 2 semaines avec un drôle d'iguane nommé Iggy Pop.